Lesson 8-2, solving proportions. And in this lesson, you learn to solve proportions by using cross products. And when are you ever going to use this? Knowing how to solve proportions can help you make scale models. Words we are going to talk about are proportion and cross products. Okay, you probably played dominoes before. So in a standard set of dominoes, 7 out of 28 tiles, or 1/4 of the tiles, are considered to be doubles. Okay, so you have your blank and your 1 1 and your 2 3 4 all the way to 6 6 tiles. Okay, so the ratios 7 over 28 and 1/4 are considered to be equivalent. That is, 7 over 28 is equal to 1/4. So the equation 7 over 28 equals 1/4 is an example of what we call a proportion. So let's define what a proportion is. In words, proportion means it is an equation that shows that two ratios are equivalent. So again, it is an equation, meaning it will have an equal sign. It will show that two ratios are equivalent. And in symbols, A over B is equal to C over D. Okay, if B is not equal to 0 and D is not equal to 0, again, going back to the first commandment of math, thou shalt not divide by 0. Okay, once your denominator becomes 0 or your divisor becomes 0, this number becomes undefined. And that's the reason why you have your restrictions in this rule. Okay, so let's talk about what proportions are. Okay, one way to determine whether two ratios form a proportion is to find their cross products. If the cross products of the two ratios are equal, then the ratios form a proportion. So in the proportion shown, okay, let's say if you look at this proportion right here in the bottom, you notice that 6 over 9 is equal to 2/3. Why is that? The reason why they're equal is because if you get their cross products, and this is the reason why it's called cross products, you get the product of the numerator and denominator of both fractions. So if you notice, 6 times 3, that is 18, is the same as 9 times 2. So one way to find out if two ratios are in proportion is that if their cross products are equal. So we define the property of proportion in words, simply saying the cross products of proportion are equal. In symbol, if A over B equals C over D, then A times D should be equal to B times C. And if you notice, you're multiplying the cross products of A and D right there, and B and C. Okay? So again, cross products means you're simply multiplying the numerator and the denominators and finding out if their products are the same. If their products are equal, then the two ratios form a proportion. Let's take a look at this example. These examples, 1 and 2, use cross products to determine whether each pair of ratios form a proportion. You have 2/3 and 4 over 26. So we want to find out by getting their cross products. 2 times 26 is it equal to 4 times 13. Okay, so we find out that they're equal. Therefore, 2 over 13 is the same as 4 over 26. Okay, and let's take a look at example number 2. We want to find out if 4 over 9, okay, forms a proportion with 16 over 38. So we get the cross products. Okay, we want to find out if 4 times 38 is equal to 9 times 16. And we find out that they're not, because 4 times 38 is 152 and 9 times 16 is 144. So the cross products are not equal, so the pairs of ratios does not form a proportion. While example number 1, they are, and that's why it forms a proportion. Okay? If one value in a proportion is unknown, you can use cross products to solve the proportion. And let's take a look at this example right here. 5 over 9 equals z over 54. Okay, so we get the cross products. You now have 5 times 54 is equal to 9 times z. And we know that 5 times 54 is 270. 9 times z is simply 9z. And then we simply divide both sides by 9 to solve for z. So dividing both sides by 9, we end up with z equals 30. So the value of z is equal to 30 for it to form a proportion with 5 over 9. Another way of doing this is this. So you have 5 over 9. So we write this down here. Okay, is equal to z over 54. And all you need to do is analyze your denominators first. So what did you multiply 9 to get to 54? You multiply this by 6. Therefore, all I need to do is multiply this by 6 as well. And that's the reason why z is equal to 30 by using this method. Okay, let me just remind you though that this only works if you can identify the factor that you multiply with the denominator, which will give you the next denominator. If you can't identify that factor, then it's going to be difficult. So you need to go through cross products to be able to find the variable. Okay, and this is how example 4 works. So you want to find the value of w. 1.4 over 1.8 is equal to 3.5 over w. We get the cross products. This becomes 1.4 times w equals 1.8 times 3.5. Okay? Again, if you notice, you cannot find the factor that you multiplied with 1.4, which will give you 3.5. Okay? It's not readily available in your head. So this is what you do. Okay? So you use the cross products. You now have 1.4w, okay, is equal to 6.3. That's a product of 1.8 and 3.5. Okay? Then divide both sides by 1.4 to solve for w. And then after that, w equals 4.5. So the solution is 4.5. The value of w is 4.5. Okay? Before we start the last example, okay, which is going to be supposed to, I think, right here, you can use proportions to make predictions. Before we do that, the secret word for this particular lesson is UCLA. The secret word is UCLA. Okay? So according to the results of a test conducted by a popular magazine, 12 out of 17 kids prefer video game A to video game B. Suppose there are 3,400 kids in your community. Predict how many will prefer video game A. Okay, so we were given this problem. Okay, we are asked to find a prediction given a ratio, okay, of 12 out of 17 kids prefer video game A to video game B. So first thing, we need to set up a proportion that compares the number of kids who prefer the video game A in the test to number the kids in your community. So let A represent the number of kids out of 3,400 who will prefer video game A. Okay, because that's what the question is asking for. Out of that, not really a question, but this is what the problem is asking for. Predict how many will prefer video game A. And that's how we create our let statement. Let A represent the number of kids out of 3,400 who will prefer video game A. So in the test, the ratio of the test is 12 out of 17, which is the kids who prefer video game A in the test is 12. Okay, and the kids who prefer, or the total number of kids is 17. So it's 12 out of 17. And in your community, the kids who prefer video game A is what we're looking for. So we make it an A. Okay, represented an A. All over total number of kids in the school, which equals 3,400. Okay, and then we use cross products. So this now becomes, okay, to be able to solve for A, we use cross products. we now multiply 12 times 3400 equals 17 times A. So 12 times 3400 equals 17 times A, which will give us a product of 40,800 equals 17A. Okay, and then we, to be able to isolate A, we divide both sides by 17. Okay, so we end up with 40,800 divided by 17 will give us 2,400. Okay, so in this particular problem, we can predict that 2,400 out of the 3,400 kids will prefer video game A. Okay, and that's the end of our lesson. Thank you for watching.